All right, phone lines, 1-695 Patriot, 957-2874. Let me welcome back to the program Troy Miller. He is the president of the National Religious Broadcasters. All right, so you're coming into town this weekend, or are you here already?
Yeah, I'm here already. I'm in New York. We've been doing a number of meetings with a number of our members and friends and media, so it's been great to be here in the last couple of days.
Well, I'm doing my radio program from the Salem studios today, where I do my television program. I'm sure you're familiar with lots of the people working here.
Yes, I am, and I'm very familiar with that studio as well. The television side, I actually had a chance to work with the Salem folks in that studio design.
So what is the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast?
So the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast is a gathering of people from the Jewish community and from the Christian community to come together on a common ground, common faith, and a show of solidarity. So there will be a number of people there on Monday and Tuesday at the prayer breakfast. We'll hear from Michelle Bachman, from a number of different leaders within the community, former ambassador to Israel, and so it's a great time for us as Christians to come together and show our solidarity with our Jewish brothers and sisters.
I just had Ryan Gerdusky on, and he was on CNN telling them things they didn't want to hear, that Kamala Harris is actually losing Jewish voters. The Democrats have not been able to silence the anti-Semitism in their party while claiming Republicans are racist or even anti-Semitic. Do you see a pattern?
The rampant anti-Semitism in their party is exactly right. And look, the Biden administration and even her own comments about this, people don't realize we still have 101 hostages over there, 3 Americans. She does not recognize that. She's not called for the release of the hostages. And look, when I was in Jerusalem back in May, I think one of the things that was so clear to the Jewish people, and especially to a lot of the Jewish people that were here from New York, because they tend to lean more left, more progressive, was that their own left progressive brothers and sisters have left them behind. The causes that they used to help champion now, and now this is a party of anti-Semitism. And it's the Christian conservatives that have come alongside Israel in their time of need now, and it's a shame. It's not a shame that Christians have done. It's a shame that the people of America, the liberals, have abandoned their own people.
Answer me this, and look, I don't talk about my faith a lot on the radio, and I'm certainly not a religious broadcaster by the standard of the National Religious Broadcasters. Although, of course, I have respect for it. This is what I don't understand, is that Democrats will lecture Christian conservatives that they're fundamentalists and Bible thumpers, and they keep your religion out of my face and all this stuff. Like when you see the 10 Commandments going up in Louisiana, or on the issue of abortion, they say get your fundamentalism out of here. But then if you're not for open borders and an endless welfare state, they start wagging their fingers at you. Well, if you were a real Christian, well, you can't have it both ways. And I find that infuriating and frustrating. When it comes to Christians in America, they don't like, I'll restart this. They don't like people saying this is a Christian nation. Now, of course, with the First Amendment and the Establishment Clause, but as far as the majority faith, this is a Christian nation, right? This is the majority of people in this country are subscribed to some form of Christianity, some sect of Christianity. So if we say it's a Christian nation, they say you can't say that, and they'll lose their minds. When Christians speak through their faith, they say, hold on a second here. It's almost like a traffic cop. Like they'll put their hand up as they're waving in other people. And you could speak on your faith, or you could speak from you. But when it comes to issues like abortion or same-sex marriage or whatever it is, they say, you Christians just go off to the side here. But then when they want to talk about open borders and the welfare state, they say, hold on a second now. Now, Jesus would want universal health care. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can't have it both ways. But you're right. That's what the left tries to do, is to have it both ways. Christians are the only ones that are supposed to keep their viewpoints on policy and how we spend our money and how our country should create laws. They're supposed to keep those opinions somehow in your church, because you're a Christian. You shouldn't have those opinions in the public square. You guys need to keep those. If you're talking about the way you think the country should be governed, you're a Christian nationalist. You're trying to push your religion on us. But yet, as you said, at the same time, what we have is a left that's constantly pushing their ideologies on society today, and they're actually the minority of the viewpoints. You know, how many people in this country still look at ending a heartbeat of a baby is still murder? And yet they want to go way beyond Roe v. Wade. The Roe v. Wade allowed the states to have restrictions. They want to have states with no restrictions. They want to transgender middle schoolers, and they tell Christians, we're going to do all this, you be quiet, because when you do it, it's religion, it's religious interference, but when we do it, it's okay.
Right, and that's the talk of the welfare state and single payer and all this, well, the arguments, no room at the inn, and Jesus would uplift the poor. Right, Christians do that through volunteer work. They do that through their churches, through their faith-based community groups. We were playing. Can you guys break? I'm going to play it again for Troy. Can you play? Let me go back to my cut sheet here. Cut 14. This is a homeless advocate in Springfield, Ohio, talking about the effect of the migrants. Play that.
The homeless problem. I don't know of a single homeless Haitian in this town because they all got vouchers. But I can show you a whole bunch of people that have been displaced, because I'm that guy. Rob, for 25 years I've worked with the homeless in this community. A lot of people don't know because I'm not the guy out there blowing the horn, because it ain't about me. It's the Jesus in me that goes out there and does it. Trust me, there's days I'm tired, but I'll get into homeless camps that nobody in a suit and tie will walk into. None. They trust me because I've never let them down. And guys, if you don't think it's here right now, in October, we are getting ready to hit a wall here. There is not any relief for the homeless. The homeless people in this community are not the people you think they are, the squatters that aren't happening. It's not there. There's veterans. Come see me. I'm not real hard to find. Ask anybody on the street. They'll tell you how to get a hold of me. I'll take you there. And no, they don't want your toothpaste and your peanut butter sandwiches. They want you to come up with a solution to why they're displaced.
So he says it's the Jesus in me. Most Christians, tell me if I'm wrong, you can correct me at any time if I'm wrong here, don't want the government doing charity. That's for people of faith to do voluntarily. But we get Democrats who will say, well, if you believe this, then the government should do that. No, the people should do that for one another, not the government.
Exactly. And just like that gentleman said, he does that because of Christ in him and because his faith calls him to love one another. The government is the coldest, callousest kind of charitable entity there is. They live far off and think that, and he's talking about the people, they think if you just give these people a voucher, give them a sandwich or give them this, you've taken care of it. But that's not the way it works. The Christians are out there in these camps. They're not only helping people for their physical needs and their medical needs, but they're loving on people. They're helping them understand that they're important in life and that they matter. The government can't do that. The government looks at everybody as a number and a statistics. And the worst thing that we did to charity in this country was back in the 1920s when the government got into the charity work during the Great Depression, and the government needs to be out of it. And people are a lot better at spending the funds and the resources when they're theirs and they're accountable for it and they know the things that really help. You can't do that from a bureaucratic office sitting in Washington, D.C.
Right. And, I like to use this one. I'll get callers who will say that to me. They'll say, and again, I'm not a religious broadcaster. We don't spend a lot of our time on religious talk. I leave that to the religious broadcasters. Just like I don't talk about sports, I leave that to the sportscasters. But when we do get that call, they'll say, well, Jesus would want universal health care. And I'll say, okay, can you describe the Roman spear that Jesus would use to extract the funds? And they'll say, what do you mean? I was like, well, that's a cult of faith. It's not sticking a spear in the small of somebody's back and going, turn over your wealth and property to me because I'm forcing you to. It's do it because you believe and you feel driven to by faith. You willingly give that up. You willingly tithe. You willingly donate. You willingly say, I have covered my end and I have extra, so here I can give.
Yeah, exactly. Look, the Bible calls us to be charitable to the poor, and we do that out of love and obligation for our faith and for our religion. We don't do it out of, coerced into doing it by the government. And we get to decide, and the Bible talks about this a lot. We get to decide. It's our conscience of how that money gets to be spent. It's not that we send it in, the government takes it away, and then spends it, providing for transgender surgeries and calls that, well, Jesus would want transgender surgeries. They would want these people. They take the Bible, they take principles from the Bible, and they pervert them because all they do is cherry pick little things out of the text. They don't look at the whole text. They don't look at what the whole principles of the Bible are. And one of the principles that the Bible has is about us being hard workers, providing for our families. And the government just wants to create this false equity and level everybody out. And, of course, we've seen how that fails around the world.
Yeah. It's the shaming and then the blaming, right? And
right.
Again, you can't say to someone, keep your religion to yourself till I give you the order to abide by something when I call on your faith. That's not how this works.
No. Well, look, and they hide behind this whole separation of church and state, which doesn't exist. They hide behind this religion, sort of mentality because even as Christians, we have a fundamental understanding of economics, of fairness, of what it means, what taxation means. We understand what tithing means. We understand, these issues, and some of these issues aren't even, overtly religious, but because you're a Christian and you're speaking out about it, all of a sudden it's like, no, you be quiet. You be marginalized. You set off the side. You don't get to have an opinion. You don't get to have a voice in the governance of our country simply because you're a Christian and you go to church.
I'm a deep believer in the Constitution. And this is something I've never understood. The Democrats will tell you with a straight face that there is a separation of church and state. No, there is. That's from a letter. We went over this, Thomas Jefferson.
Yep.
It just means that the Congress cannot declare an official religion of the United States because, look, let's just say they picked Christianity. Presbyterians would be going, is it going to be us? Is it going to be the Mennonites? Is it going to be the Catholics? Is it going to be, right? Like they kind of wanted to make sure that there was no church, Anglican church. I totally get that. But at the same time, they will go around saying you can't have a Bible club in a government-run school because of the First Amendment. That's not what it says. And yet they make a space, and I'm not trying to, criticize Muslims when I say this, but they'll say, but it's okay for them to use public utility poles for the Muslim call to prayer. Well, you can't have it both ways either.
Right. You can't. California schools had a whole week of activities of what it means to be a Muslim, and they ask kids and students to go ahead and bring your prayer rugs and pray 3 times a day, and to do these things, or as you set up in Michigan, where they allow public utilities to be for the call of prayer. But yet on the Christian side, somehow Christians are prohibited or restricted, and I think there's a reason for that. Andrew. The reason is that the morality and the values that Christians stand up against with, and the hope that the gospel message gives, is in direct contrast, in opposition to this leftist progressive agenda that they're trying to move forward, that puts the state in the place of God and puts God way off to the side or out of the picture altogether, so that the state is your God. The state is who you have hope in. The state is who you depend. And that's the attitude of these elitists. They think we know, but you Christians don't know. You guys are just hillbillies. You just don't know. You're uneducated. We know what's better for you. So set your conscience aside. We're going to tell you how society is going to work, and you're going to like it. And right now, Christianity is the firewall that stands in their way.
All right, one last thing. This is more of a question, and again, I've always said there's nothing wrong with teaching world religions. Some people have thought I was advocating for something else. I want to make sure I get this right when I say it. I don't think there's anything wrong if you're in school and the teacher says, okay, this is what Christians believe, this is what Jews believe, this is what Muslims believe, this is what Hindus believe. But what we've seen, though, is students being forced to affirm things. Do you think it's appropriate to draw that line? Like, it's okay to say in class, this is what these religions teach, this is their guiding text, these are their prominent, figures, as long as you don't make any student affirm anything out of their faith.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's okay. It's fair to teach world religions, to teach what the viewpoints are of the different religions around the world, and to lay it out there for students to understand and make their own decisions as families, as parents, or as students. Absolutely fair. We advocated in RV for the freedom of religion. Not the freedom of Christianity in America, the freedom of religion. We think that this country should stay out of all religions, not just Christianity. The government needs to stay out of all of them, and the government shouldn't prohibit any of them. But it can't come alongside and advocate for one or for the other. It has to stay neutral. That was the whole idea around the First Amendment. The government needs to stay out of this, but neutral doesn't mean you can tell people not to live out their faith. That's not neutrality. That's actually taking a position on religion.
All right, I got to leave it there. Enjoy your time here in New York City. Troy Miller, president of the National Religious Broadcasters. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.